Your timing's perfect. I was just sitting here thinking that I needed some excitement in my day. We should go do something. Hang on. Hello? Wingsuit Adventures? Hey, do you have any slots open for today? Yeah, for the Halo skydive through the volcano? Right, the deluxe death package. No? All booked up, huh? Okay. Thanks. What else can we do? Oh, I know. It's almost as exciting as a skydiving adventure. Are you ready? In the last video, I showed you how to do an HA install of Rancher, and it probably seems like HA is the only way to go because it protects you from getting fired, or having your systems fail and then getting fired. I don't know which one of those is worse. Anyway, it protects you, but there are actually lots of times where an HA installation isn't what you want to do. Maybe you're in development. Maybe you don't want to dedicate 3 nodes to Rancher. Maybe you're just testing Rancher out and you don't want to go through all the extra steps and the trouble. And so, for everybody else, we have 2 types of single node installations: standalone container and single node cluster. Only one of these is in the Rancher documentation, but I'm still going to show you both of them. Technically, neither of them are covered by support, because if you have an enterprise subscription from Rancher, you need to be running your production environment in HA mode for fault tolerance. Not doing that doesn't make any sense. The standalone container method is really only for a sandbox environment. Rancher says so in the documentation, but it's the truth. You cannot go from a standalone Docker container to an HA deployment. If you start out on one and you want to go to the other, you'll have to recreate all of your work in the HA cluster. So if you think you might put production workloads onto Rancher, then I recommend that you deploy a single node RKE cluster. For that, just go back to my other video about the HA install and follow along, but in the RKE config part, instead of giving it 3 nodes, give it 1. Make sure that your single node has all 3 roles: etcd, control plane, and worker, and then follow the rest of the instructions to install Rancher. You see, Rancher doesn't actually know that it's running in a 1-node Kubernetes cluster versus a 67-node Kubernetes cluster. It doesn't care. You care. Obviously, it's not HA, but what's super cool about RKE is that when you're ready to go HA, you just add 2 more nodes to your RKE config file and run RKE up. It'll provision the other 2 nodes, it'll wire etcd together, and you'll have a full-on HA Kubernetes cluster with Rancher already running inside of it. You get all the benefits of HA. It's a nice sales pitch, right? If you still want to go forward with the standalone container method, that's okay. So while that's starting up, let's review the flags. D for daemon, punch through ports 80 and 443, and restart unless stopped. That's important because the upgrade procedure for Rancher consists of stop the old container, back up the persistent volume because nothing ever goes wrong, deploy the new container pointed at the old data store, and then it'll perform a migration and do all of whatever it needs to do for an upgrade. If for some reason that doesn't work, you stop the new container, restore your backup, start the old container, and you're back up and running as you were a few moments ago. Meanwhile, all of the production workloads are running just fine because they're not actually dependent on the Rancher server for them to do their thing. If you use restart equals always, then when you stop the old container, Docker is going to restart it. You'll stop it, Docker restarts it, you'll stop it, Docker restarts it, and that gets super annoying. The other thing is that you don't want to name your deployment. When you go to do the upgrade, you'll stop the old container, and then you go to start the new one, and you can't have 2 containers that are using the same name. So you're going to have to name it something else, like Rancher Server 1, Rancher Server 23. It's best to just let Docker name it, whatever it's going to name it. In either of those cases, if you don't do the things that allow you to stop the old container and start the new one, you're going to have to destroy the old container, and when you do that, you'll have to go through extra steps if you need to get it back. Finally, I like to use a bind-mounted volume directly from the host for the persistent data. This makes it easier to make backups by copying the directory before starting the new container or by renaming it if we need to roll back. Like the HA version, Rancher has 2 generic tags: stable and latest. For production environments, always run stable, but we're going to add an extra step of stability by specifying the actual container tag. You can find the tag that corresponds to the stable release from the GitHub releases page. If you scroll down past any RC release, then the one that you find that is not RC will tell you in the release notes what the current stable tag is. By doing this, you can be absolutely positive that you're using the version of Rancher that you want to use, and you won't have any surprises where stable unexpectedly changes from one point release to another. That's actually good advice for anything that you run inside of Kubernetes, but I'll talk about that more when I show you how to launch workloads in a different video. At this point, whether you've done a standalone installation of Rancher or an HA installation, there's one more thing you need to do before you start deploying and importing Kubernetes clusters. See, Rancher is the core of your Kubernetes management solution, and it's super important that you have regular backups. So for that, you just... Sorry, one second. Hello? Really? Someone canceled for the deluxe death package? Yeah, let me just grab my helmet and I'll head right over. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to put backups in the next video. Click the subscribe button and that little bell icon so that you get notified when it's out. Thanks for watching.